Hi everyone, and welcome to today's Productivity Program webinar, which is part of the Business Success series. This is the autumn series. My name's Simon from Sterling Coaching, and I'm very pleased that this webinar series is supported by the Productivity Program, the University of Lincoln, and of course the European Regional Development Fund as well. Today's webinar is one of a series of 6. It is a series, but you can attend any of the webinars in isolation, and they should make sense to you, hopefully, if I do my job well. And today is minimizing wasted effort in business. For those that have just joined us, if you can use the questions and answers box as we go through today's webinar to communicate with me, to ask any questions, to share any thoughts. I have, where possible, allowed each of you to be able to talk. So if you do want to jump in at any time and share something, please take yourself off of mute, and hopefully I'll be able to take you off of mute if you want to talk through your question as well. So this isn't just me talking. I do want to create a bit of a workshop feel. I've got a lot to go through. But I do want to make sure that there's some engagement in this as well. As I mentioned, it is part of the productivity program, and there are various arms to the productivity program, which include grant funding, academic expertise, graduate internships, specialist advisor support, the Business Angel Network, which is a great network which is organised and sorted out by Laura Malibone. And of course, there's some graduate startup funding available as well. And there's a big push on getting graduates into business at the moment as well. There'll be some contact details at the end. If you want to get in touch with them, there are lots of things that are changing at the moment. There are lots of things available from the productivity program. This webinar is just one part of that sort of expertise and support. So please reach out to the team and make use of what's available, because it's there and it's available to you guys that are on this webinar. About this hierarchy of which stage that we're talking about during the next couple of webinars, which is a stage of order. I'm going to be really today asking you lots of questions. Today is very much, when you're looking at minimizing wasted effort in a business, it's very much around awareness. And I'm going to be getting you to think. I'm getting you to ask yourself questions. Okay, and the first thing we're going to work through is, do you have a working model to reduce bottleneck, slowdowns, and inefficiencies in your business? Okay, so we're going to ask some questions and probe into your business and see what you have in place at the moment. And by raising your awareness, I also hope then to look at possibilities of minimizing waste efforts in your business, and also by raising the awareness, looking at the possibilities, I'm going to challenge you to take away some actions as we go through this. We're also going to look at what your current wasted efforts are and how you take control of those. And at the end, with some time within the 60 minutes, we'll hopefully answer some questions either as we go along, or we'll answer any at the end. As I said right at the beginning, if you've got any questions or hot topics, please put them in now. What I mean by hot topic, it might be to do with today's webinar. It might be about wasted efforts and efficiencies and taking control of your business and getting order in your business. But if there's a hot topic that is a real burning hot topic, please put it into the questions and answers box, and I'll do my best to answer it now, or at least reach out to you outside of this. But sometimes we found, particularly in the midst of the crisis in these webinars, the hot topics weren't always on theme with the webinar, but they were things that people wanted to know. So I'm more than happy to be in the hot seat and answer any hot topics that you might have. So questions or hot topics, be great if they're on the theme of minimizing waste effort in business, but also they can be other things as well. So I mentioned in previous webinars and in the introduction there that we're going to take a look at the level of order in the business hierarchy of needs. Now, the business hierarchy of needs follows a very similar theme to the Maslow hierarchy of needs, in which we look at human survival. And this hierarchy of needs, which was created by a friend of mine now, an author who's in the books behind me there, Fix This Next, a gentleman called Mike Michalowicz. He's written about 6 or 7 different business books. And he created this business hierarchy of needs, which is one of the frameworks I use in my coaching programs, whether it be one-to-one or group. And in the prior webinars, we've looked at sales, which is about generating and creating cash. We've also touched on the creation of stability. But as this is the productivity program, I thought it was time for the autumn series to deal with that last stage of order. And you'll notice on the business hierarchy of needs that the first 3 stages are what the business gets. Okay, so the first set of webinars in this series are going to be looking at that level of order. And we're just covering one of those today, minimizing wasted efforts. The latter webinars in this autumn series are then going to be on impact, how you can create transformation, and transformation in you, transformation in your business, and also transformation in your customers. But today we're looking at that level of order. Now, if you still have important things to fix in the creation of cash, you know, if you're still looking at building cash reserves and delivering on client commitments and getting them to deliver on their commitments to you, things like that, then go and work on that. Yeah, that's the whole idea of the book, Fix This Next. You know, you fix that level first and then you move on to the next level. If you're still in that level of profit, if you're still looking at how you can build your margins and get that profitable leverage, then fix that before you move up. But I'm going to assume that you're happy with sales, happy with profit, you're working on those. It doesn't mean that they're absolutely where you want them to be, but certainly there's no real big fixes in those at the moment. And we're going to move to the level of order. And it's organizational order is the title I've given it there. But what that means is it's not about organizational chart. I'm very aware that on these webinars, we have lots of different types of business. So we have entrepreneurs, solo business owners, we have charities, we have educational, we have grant funding businesses, we have all kinds of different people. So what I'm going to do is try and use the language of organizations, which hopefully will cover all of you. Okay, so just like I use the word guys when I'm talking about people, whether it's male, female, or anything else, I'm using the word organization for businesses, whether it's small, large, non-profit, and everybody in between. So that's a little bit of how this series, and particularly today, fits in that business hierarchy of needs. It's really important that you get something to drink. I've got my Starbucks coffee here, which I haven't got from Starbucks, by the way. I've got it from a coffee machine that I have downstairs. Make sure you've got something to take notes on. Make sure that you take plenty of notes. It's really important to me that you take something away from today. And I'm going to ask you at the end to review your notes and to write down some actions. So you need to take notes as you go through this. And of course, if you're watching the replay, you can pause the recording at any time and actually make more notes or add to your existing notes if you like as well. So keep yourself hydrated, take plenty of notes, and ask questions in the questions and answers box. That would be great. Okay, I'm just going to clear Peter's comment there. So Peter, good to know that it's okay in Caister as well. Thinking about where you are right now, I want you to give yourself a score. Okay, so this is where you start participating. This is where you start taking some notes. I want you to think about control. Yeah. And different people will have different terms of control, but yeah, in your own definition, on a scale of 1 to 5, where are you in being in control in your business? So 1 is pretty poor. 5 is I'm in absolute control. I'm a bit like the aircraft there. I know exactly where we're heading. I've got all the controls. Everything's in place. I've got the right approach, and we're going to hit the runway exactly where we want it to be. Okay, so give yourself a scale of 1 to 5 of how in control you are in your business. If you'd like to share that, please put it in the questions and answers box. So control might mean having a strategic plan and you're following the plan. Control might be that the team do what you want them to do. Control might be that you're delivering on your client commitments and you've got the quality right, the service right, the product right, whatever it is. So what is your score of control? So David, 3.5. Helena, 2. Okay. The reason I'm asking you to do this, 1, it's really good to have that realization of where you are, but it will also help me determine perhaps what I can say differently as well and what I can focus on. So I love the way that people are giving 2.5s and 3.5s. Yeah. So Paul, good morning to you as well. 2.5 to 3, 3.5, 3 to 4. Great. So it looks like the general consensus is round about a 3, which is pretty consistent and pretty average, and obviously an average score and a non-committal score as well. The other thing that I want you to think about on this is I want you to think about complexity. Because one of the biggest things that gets in the way of efficiency in business is complexity. You know, and you'll notice my slides, some are quite wordy, but you know, I love images. Yeah, the image there in the middle of having a problem, having a solution, and yes, we find a way, but sometimes we go round about the houses to get there. Sometimes and I'm a big fan of key performance indicators, KPIs, but I want you to think about complexity, okay? And this time we're going to score our business on, are we a business which is creating complexity? And what I mean by creating complexity, I mean complexity which is unnecessary. Okay, so 1 is that we're really good. This is where I'm flipping it around, so I'm just testing you awake. 1 is where you're really good and you have very little complexity in your business. And 5 is, yes, we're creating lots and lots of complexity. You know, we're introducing lots of things that are making things really complicated. So again, score yourself on, are you creating complexity? I want you to refer back to these scores as we go through this session and after this session, because what I want to do is I want to see these scores improving, okay, as you progress on some of your actions here. So where are you on complexity? So again, we've got a couple of scores coming in there, 3, 3.5. Hazel, 5, far too much. Okay. Helena, now this is interesting. So we're getting some scores now that certainly are saying way too complex. Tanvir, somewhere between 4 and 5. Yeah, we need to talk about that in our next coaching session then. Peter, 4. Helena, 4. Yeah. And it's interesting that you were pretty average on the control, but some of you are quite high on the complexity. And I think that's the trend that I tend to see in businesses which are coping with change, coping with crisis, or coping with growth. Whatever you're coping with, very often, rather than look at simplicity, we look at making things more complex. and as was said there, far too much complexity. So when we're going through the rest of this webinar, I want those of you who scored 3 and above on complexity, I want you to look at and focus on where you can reduce and strip back that complexity. And if you're going to do something new, if you're going to be efficient and you're going to reduce wasted effort in business, you need to strip back complexity. Okay, so as I'm talking now, and those of you who have said far too much and gave yourself a 4 or 5, what I want you to do now, I want you to list down the areas in your business where you feel they're too complex and that you haven't got that simplicity of going from problem to solution. Okay, and I want you to write those down. I want you to list them down right now. Okay. In the same way, I want you to list down the areas in your business where you feel you would like to or need to improve control. I don't want you to share them in the Q&A box. I just want you to list them down. What are the areas in which you need to strip back complexity, and which are the areas in which you would like to or need to take more control? I did say this was a webinar of awareness, and I really want you to make sure that you write these things down. I can't see you, I don't know that you're doing it, so I trust that you are. So while you're doing that, let me talk through the next slide, which is, what is order? Now, this is a slightly contradictory slide because order really is understanding and anticipating what is going to happen and coping with what is going to happen before it happens. But I think I think everybody would agree with me now that we are in a time of certainty and uncertainty, and we certainly have a lot of uncertainty at the moment. But one thing we can be clear of at any point in time, not just now, as this is being recorded, as we are still in this crisis of pandemic and COVID, whatever your views are on where we are in that crisis. But one thing that no matter where we are in time, you can always be certain of uncertainty. You can plan as much as you can for things that you can be certain of, but you can also be certain that around the corner there is uncertainty. So order is about taking steps to cope with things before they happen. Okay, it's a bit like that image there of the plane. And flying is one of my passions. I used to fly helicopters, and you have that right approach. You know where you want to be. You have all the KPIs, but you're forever adjusting. You might have a gust of wind. You might have a different command on the radio. I remember coming out of Cadwell Park racetrack once, and I knew exactly where I was going to go. I'd got my flight planned. But as soon as I got up in the air, Waddington came on and asked me if I could accept vectors because the red arrows were coming in. So I had to continually take different instructions, and I had to cope with all this uncertainty as I went through Waddington military airspace to get back to where I needed to be. So when we think about order, it's not about having just certainty. It's about being aware and planning for uncertainty in some measure as well. Now, there are, of course, items where we have to make changes. So we might have done it the old way, but now we're looking at new ways of doing it. And I want you to be open to this. This is why I'm putting this slide up here. I want you to open your minds to the fact of certainty and uncertainty. And there is a way that perhaps you did it, but that doesn't mean that just because that's the old way of doing it, it's the way that you should always do it, or it's the way that is right to do. But it also means it might be actually okay to keep doing it that way, but you might need those little tweaks that we talked about. In the same way, we have to have this cycle of checking where we are. If we're going to be in control, if we're going to have order, we need to have a loop, a closed loop. We need to plan what we're going to do. We need to do what we're going to do. We need to take the action, and then we need to check that it's had an effect, that it's worked, and then we continually tweak and go round in that circle. So this isn't a one-way process. And as I've said there, when it comes to waste, this webinar is about taking steps to eliminate waste before it happens, okay, not after. Order is more about taking steps before it happens, not chaos, which is taking steps after it happens. So hopefully that's giving a little bit of an overview of what I mean by order and what we're going to talk about in the next few webinars, and particularly today. An order is not just systems and processes. Okay, it's obviously some of you might have seen things like Lean, Sigma 6, Kaizen for never-ending improvement, things like, order isn't just systems and processes. It's about the culture in your business. It's about the culture that you set as the leaders and managers in your business. And I want you to think, as I go through these, is your culture where it needs to be? Are people embracing change? Are people using the systems and the processes? I was talking to a client just the other day down in Bournemouth, and they've just introduced a piece of software called Simpro, and they spent about 3 months, a lot of time, and they said, it's great, everybody wants to use it, but it's broken. And now the culture is, why should we even bother to try and use it when it needs fixing? So they've got to get this culture fixed of the fact that this software is now seen as something that needs fixing before it can be used. So they got the culture of embracing change, but now they need to overcome this mindset of why should we bother, because it's probably broken anyway. So how's your culture at the moment? Is your culture something you need to work on when you're looking at improving systems and processes and eliminating waste? Okay. Order is about making better choices. Okay. It's about improvements and tweaks. It's not about radical changes all the time, although sometimes it can be. It's about those little things, those little 10% changes that you can make. It's about better habits and routines. I don't know about you. Somebody once said that if you do something for 30 days, when I was trying to exercise once, if you do it for 30 days, it becomes a habit. Yeah, I need about 6 months before I create a habit. The sit-up bench that I've got in my bedroom is a testament to that as well. And also, order is about consistency of outstanding. I'll say that again, consistency of outstanding. It's not being mediocre. It's not being just about good enough. What we want to do in that level of order, and by being efficient and by reducing waste, we want to create a consistency of outstanding where we are striving to be the best that we can be. And it's about having predictable outcomes. Now, over there on the right-hand side, you'll see the traffic. Now, I put that up there to illustrate that sometimes just having a process that says go down this road and go this way to your destination doesn't always mean that as you keep doing it, it's the best thing. That traffic there looks like chaos to me, and I'm sure it is chaos. So following the way that you've always done it, making a habit of doing something that way, but not improving it and not tweaking it and not getting into a routine of reviewing it and saying, is this the best thing for us, is not a good thing when it comes to getting order and reducing waste. So I want you just to have a think about those. Do you need to make better choices in the business? Do you need to improve the culture when it comes to order? Are there better habits? Are there habits that perhaps changes that you've just introduced that you're not seeing the results of yet? And what you need to do is keep those habits going so that they become habits. They become something that is the normal, and that consistency. And ultimately, we want predictable outcomes. We want to make sure that we are dealing with certainty and uncertainty. So why improve efficiency? And just while I clear these questions, I'm going to ask you to put into the Q&A box why you feel in your business you need to reduce waste, improve efficiency, and is there one area in particular that you need to deal with right now? So type that into the questions and answers box. You always know, so I always ask you to do something when I need a sip of something to drink. So is there a reason why you need in your business to reduce waste and improve efficiencies? And is there one in particular that you need to work on right now? Hopefully I've got your mind thinking a little bit about some of the areas, what efficiency means, what order means. So don't be shy. Is there anything in your business? Helena, thank you. Time management, yeah. And I think I can say globally, time management would be the most significant thing that people need to reduce time in. And it's the one that is the holy grail. So many people have tried to get on top of their time management and reduce the wastage of time. And there's lots of programs out there. So great. So you're now putting in. So Frank, having streamlined the operations of the business, reporting of work and ways, reporting of work and ways needs changing. Great. Tanvir, time is a limited resource, so using time effectively. Customer contract management. Okay, there's an interesting one. Gain certification to keep clients, time management sorted. Okay, time management, reduce frustrations of staff. They know areas could be more efficient, but need encouraging to adopt the change. Yeah. Great, perfect. Quality control. Fabulous. So thanks for sharing those. And, we do need to think about the reasons that we need to improve efficiencies. Very often when we're looking at improving efficiencies and reducing waste, what we do is we talk about the how we're going to do it, and we talk about the actions that we're going to take. But very often what we don't do is we don't think about the why. We don't communicate the why with our team. Okay. And very often we move so quickly and we start getting into things so fast that we forget to tell people why. We forget to remind ourselves of the reasons why. So yes, efficiencies, we want to get time back for you. That's one of the top things on my list. We need to get time back for people in the business. We want to get you so that you can do the things in your business that you want to do and the things outside of the business. We want to avoid chaos. Okay, we want to slow things down perhaps so you can smell the roses and appreciate what you have around you. And the other thing with efficiencies, we want to remove that linchpin that is you, or other managers, other supervisors in the business. We want to improve efficiencies so we take away that structure in our organizations where it all hinges on one person. Okay. And of course, what we want to do is we want to get on top of our system so we don't have that chaos of the hand up there in the paper. We want an office that feels like a good place to work, a business where you want to go to work, and everybody that's in the business, if there are more people in the business, that they feel it's a good place to work where they can be the best that they want to be. They can be effective, they can deliver the results that the business has. And of course, They want to work smarter, not just harder. We don't want output to increase by just increasing the amount of effort that we as individuals, the amount of time that we have to put into it. Okay, so you've written down there in the questions and answers box areas that you want to improve your efficiencies in. Okay, so I want you to, I did that because I want to keep these things front of mind. I want you to jot them down as well as putting them on the Q&A box. I want you to put them into your notes because these are areas that came to you now that you need to work on. And I want you to think about those areas that you've just listed and perhaps any future areas. And if you're watching the recording, you know, this is the time to think about planning forward as well. But I want you to think about how you can deal with some of these things that I'm going to talk through next. Okay, because these are some of the reasons why you need to improve the order in your business and your efficiencies and reduce the time wasted in your business. Okay, is your business dependent on certain individuals? If that person left your business or was off for any reason, would the business operations still continue unabated? Okay, so efficiencies and order reduce that. So when you're thinking about your own reduction, your own efficiencies, and your own handling of waste, do you also need to look at those individuals? Is too much dependent on one person? Could other people carry out their tasks if they weren't there? How much of your time is taken, or the manager's taken, fighting fires, dealing with chaos, answering questions that really you shouldn't be answering? You know, if you've delegated something out, but they still keep coming back and asking questions, generally that's a waste of time. So are you actually getting pulled into things that you shouldn't be? So we want to release your time as the business owner or your time as a manager or a person within the organization. The other thing is, are gross and net profits where they need to be? Now, do they need increasing? Do we need to look at reducing waste in our fixed costs so that we improve our net profits? Or do we need to reduce waste in our operations, our cost of sales, so that we increase our gross profits? So do we need to increase those? And what areas of the business that you've listed do you actually really need to focus on that will make a difference to your net profits and your gross profits? Do you need to do more by plan than by chaos? Is too much of your day-to-day business chaotic and happens because of chaos and because of the demands of your clients, demands of the team, things breaking down, things that need fixing, rather than by plan? Because if it does happen more by chaos than by plan, what you will find is that there are lots of things that are being wasteful. Okay, we're going to talk about those in a minute. And the final thing is, the reason we want to be efficient and we want to have order is we need that space, we need that time, we need that capacity to make great business decisions. Okay, so some more reasons why you need to improve your efficiencies, why you need to reduce your waste. And as I went down those, if there are any that were light bulb moments where you just go, wow, yeah, that's an area I need to work on. I need to get more time back. My team are just flat out and I need to get them more time back. Is it profit? Is it more by plan? Which of those do you need to think about when you're looking at reducing waste and wasted effort and time in your business? Now, some of you might already have methods of reducing waste. I'm sorry, that's the only image I could find on the stock photos that had anything to do with reducing waste at the moment. But some of you might have methods of reducing waste and improving efficiency. Some of you might have improved your accounting processes. Perhaps you're doing cloud accounting, where your bank feeds go automatically into things like QuickBooks or Xero. You might have already started recording how operations are done and creating how-to manuals. Okay, and if any of these you go, oh no, I haven't done that yet, then add them to your wish list. Okay, do any of you use checklists? I went out with a client the other day and I did a health and safety audit using my health and safety qualifications for them. And the first thing I did was pulled out my checklist. Pilots, no matter whether you're on a Thompson 2E plane or you're a private pilot, when you start the aircraft up, whatever it is that you're flying, you will always start it to a checklist. That's why the industry is as safe as it is. We all use checklists. Do you use inductions so that you tell people this is how you work? Do you measure your efficiencies? Do you use KPIs, key performance indicators? And do you actually, if you're in manufacturing or in processing, do you actually have a lean or a Sigma process? So what I'd like you to do is think about any of those that you don't have that I've mentioned, add those to your wish list. And those of you who have got a method of reducing waste and improving efficiency, perhaps you didn't think it was, perhaps you didn't think accounting was a way of improving your efficiency, please put it in the Q&A box. Let me know what it is that you've got that you already consider or now consider is a way of reducing waste and efficiency, improving efficiency. How many here have a good solid accounting system where you get financial reports, bank feeds coming automatically, and the method of producing good financial information is just a fraction of a time of what it used to be? How many of you actually document or screen record or have some way in which when something is done, you get it recorded so that you can share that method of how it's done with other people? So David has said accounting. Amy, Xero has been a game changer. David, how-to manuals, great. Peter uses checklists all the time. Sometimes it's for simple things. It doesn't have to be simpler, but it does have to be simple. And checklists are a great way of reducing waste and improving efficiencies. Hazel, we've automated our invoice processing by the use of EDI, electronic data interchange. Great. Handbooks. Again, if you do inductions, how consistent are those inductions? Do you give people a handbook of how the business runs and how they should perform, as well as giving them perhaps direction on what they're doing? Project management software. Great. So lots of things. Tanvi is mentioned here. We use Monday.com for managing internal processes, and it's awesome. There are lots, and I think the thing is, there are so many choices of methods of reducing waste and improving efficiency. I'm not here to say which ones are good ones, which ones are bad things. What I am here to do today in today's webinar is to make you aware of where you can make efficiency changes in your business, make you aware of the possibilities, and then go out and find the things that are out there. So Donna said here, I think I've already mentioned that one there as well. So checklists using OmniFocus, great, across various computers. I know people who have had things that track screen usage. If you've got Macs, my iPad tells me how much I've been on the screen and things like that. So there are lots of different ways out there. So I'm glad that some of you have that. And hopefully just by looking down some of those, it will also give you inspiration to check out other things as well. And accounting, checklists, the things I listed there, if you're not using them, then you should be. And there are lots of different ways you can do checklists and inductions, etc. But there are things there that you should be using, and there's some great answers there in the Q&A session as well. So I want to challenge you on change. Now, in Mike's book, Fix This Next, he gives an example of the taxi model. Okay, so I want you to think about model and processes within your business, and when did they last change? When did you last update something in your business that perhaps did need changing? Now, the taxi model has been going since the 50s, and if you think about it, taxis themselves have to go to taxi ranks to pick up people, or they get flagged down, whistled down. If you're in New York or something like that, you know what that's like. They sometimes get a journey, they get a fare that's going one way, but then where they're going has no fare for the return. So very often it's a one-way fare. So the taxi model for the taxi drivers has been, pretty wasteful over the decades. For us as taxi users, it's also been quite ineffective, because very often you go to the taxi rank. There's, if it's a particular time in the evening, it's chock-a-block. The taxis that are driving around very often have already got fares in them, and you can't flag them down. I can't whistle very well, so I always struggle. So even for us as users, the taxi model that has been unchanged for decades has really, whilst we think it works, it's pretty ineffective and it's pretty wasteful of effort, on both sides. Now, whether you like Uber or not, whether you believe in how they do business is good or not, what I can say is that the Uber model brought massive elimination of wasted effort. With the way that you book, the way that you pay, the way that the fare knows that when they get to the other end, there's probably going to be a fare to come back. The whole model created a massive elimination of wasted effort. So ask yourselves, do you have any restrictions, any systems that are set and in a rut that perhaps are affecting improvements in efficiency and the reduction of waste in your business? Think about that now. Is there anything that's getting in the way of you becoming more efficient and reducing waste? If there is, write it down now. If there's something that you think even might be, write it down now. The other thing to think about as you writing that down, who declutters your business? Who in your business actually goes through and does either a formal audit or a bit of a whirlwind audit and actually declutters your business, that looks at where time is building up and time is being wasted? Who declutters your business? Make a note of that as well. Is there anybody? Is it you? Do you do it? And do you have any changes, any items in the business, processes, models that you have on your wish list? And if you do, write them down now, because when you go back through your notes, I want you to set some actions to work on those first. I will give you a heads up. I'm just keeping an eye on the clock here. If we're going to cover any questions and answers, we probably are going to run about 10 minutes over here. I've not got a hard stop, so I'll keep going and make sure I answer any questions, but just give you a bit of an idea there. So think about that. Hopefully you've made some notes of what needs to change in your business, what's getting in the way of efficiency, what's getting in the way of a massive elimination of wasted effort, and who declutters it, who's responsible for it, and do you have any items on your wish list that you are looking to change? Now, to identify what needs to change, these are the things that I want you to do. 4 things. I want you to ask the team. Now that might be a team of you, It might be people that surround you. It might be your accountant. It might be your bookkeeper. It might be your business advisor, your business coach. It might anybody you work with. It doesn't have to be necessarily your team in-house if you work on your own. It could be your business partner. It could be your actual partner. So first thing to do is ask for team. Sometimes, and I found this in all my years of being in business myself, that they really do know what's best. The people on the shop floor, as I used to say, very often know the things that need to change. They know where the waste is. They know where the inefficiencies are. So ask for team. Look for physical clutter and mess. If you're looking to improve efficiencies, if you're looking for wasted effort, look for physical mess. Look for untidy desks. Look for piles of rubbish that haven't been moved for some time. So look for physical clutter. Look for things that have just been put in a cupboard out the way. I didn't show you my office way around because I have lots of filing trays and I just put lots of things in piles. So look for physical clutter and mess. Number 3, search out time piles. And what I mean by that is areas where when an activity, when an action goes into this area, it just everything seems to slow down or it virtually stops. So it might be that it goes into accounts. It might be it goes into procurement or purchasing. It might be that it is a certain part of the production. It might be the creation. It might be the planning. As soon as we start putting things into the planning section, it just slows right down because there's perhaps too many chefs in the kitchen, too many people having an input, or it could just be that there's not enough people in there to make a decision, or nobody wants to make a decision. Nobody commits to making a decision. So search out the time piles. And number 4, look for the bottlenecks. Okay. And they might say, well, what's the difference between a bottleneck and all the other things? Well, bottlenecks are where things sit and wait for either someone else or something else to get to it. Okay. Now, time piles are slightly different because things slow down, but there are still people dealing with stuff there, but they're just dealing with it slowly or it virtually stops. The bottlenecks are where blame starts to come into play. Well, I thought you were dealing with it. No, I thought you had to deal with it before I dealt with it. Or as I found on my accounting system today, the bank connections have broken on my QuickBooks. So it was something. My bookkeeper sent me a message saying, can you send me some of these statements because they don't seem to be, I can't reconcile them. And when we looked, it was QuickBooks that wasn't dealing with it. So that was a bottleneck. All the stuff was there, but the bank feed wasn't feeding into QuickBooks to allow the bookkeeping to be done. So what bottlenecks have you got? Okay. So things do need to change. If you're going to create efficiencies, if you're going to reduce wasted effort, things are going to change. You need that can-do attitude and you need to start doing it right now. And those 4 things there will help you do it. But you'll notice that I've given a warning. You have to have something which is called protective capacity. If you strip efficiencies so far to their extreme that there is no capacity for a spike in need from clients or demand, then you're going to be in trouble because you'll start to undertrade as a business. So make sure when you're looking at efficiencies, when you look at stripping back the wasted effort in your business, that you ensure that you have some degree of protective capacity. Now, I don't know what level that is. You do. I don't know that because I don't know each of your businesses. Only you know that, but you need to have some kind of protective capacity. But it's not too much. Okay, it's enough so that you can cope with potential spikes, that uncertainty that I talked about right at the beginning. Okay, so write down those 4 things. Do something with each of those 4 things in the next few weeks ahead. Look for physical clutter. As you walk around the office, as you walk around your warehouse, your workshop, even your home, if you're working from home, I've got a pile on my desk that I know needs clearing. So look for physical clutter. Each of these you can do something with. Okay, so this is going to take some effort. Yeah, if you think it's going to be an easy ride, getting rid of wasted time and wasted effort, it's not. But you do need to take some action. You do need to get people involved. You do need to create a list. A quote there from Einstein: "Everything should be as simple as it can be, but not simpler." Okay, we need to make sure that we know what we need to take care of or clean up or clear up. Okay, so I want you to think about that, get people involved, and to help you do that, for each of the items that you're going to work on, I'm going to give you a process today, very quickly, called OMAN. Okay, so I want you to remember that. I always think about the horror films when I think about this. So for each area of improvement, I want you to complete the OMAN process. And you can do it on a worksheet, whatever you want to do. And then when you've completed the process, I want you to measure the results that you've achieved. You gave yourself a score of 1 to 5 earlier on. I want you to rescore some of those as you go through. So 4 parts to the OMAN. First part, objective. And write these down as I go through, please. I trust that you're writing these down. Your OMAN, objective. Set a clear move from where you are now to where you want to be. That's what I mean by objective. What is the objective for the improvement that you're going to make to the process, to the efficiency? Second one, measurement. Do you have the correct way and the best way of measuring the efficiencies? If you don't, agree on what the measure is going to be for measuring the success. Okay, and make sure if you have got a measure, a KPI, key performance indicator, that it's the best way. So agree and measurement. Number 3, evaluation. How often are you going to evaluate this process, this improvement? Who's going to evaluate it, and how long overall? What I don't want to do is have an open book where you say, yeah, we're going to improve it. Well, over a 6-month period, a 3-month period, a 2-week period, whatever it is. So agree how often you're going to evaluate it, by who. So is it going to be daily if it's going to be a 2-weekly overall timescale? Is it going to be monthly if it's a 6-month project? Do you see what I mean? So we have the objective, we agree the measurement of the improvement, we set the evaluation, and then the nurture. Who is going to be involved? Who in the team is going to be involved? Agree who is going to talk to them. How often you're going to communicate with them? Who are going to be the partners? You need to gain the buy-in. Okay, so for each process that you say you're going to improve, we're going to go through and we're going to use the OMAN, and then at the end of it, we're going to look back and we're going to look at the result. What was the planned result? What was the actual that we achieved? And then share the results with everyone. Okay. Now, part of going through this OMAN process is that you will gain focus and you will exceed your expectations. Yeah, that's the thing. That's why I want you to put some structure, some framework to it, because I've used that OMAN sheet for a long while. And what I will say is that you will get unexpected outcomes. You will get a laser focus and you will exceed the results. So it's really important that you stay on track. The successes to do the things that you want to do. That's me on the motorbike there. Yeah, by being efficient, by reducing wasted effort, we can make more profit. We can achieve the goals that we set. We can recognize the success in our business, and we can celebrate success. Now we've got 4 minutes left, and then we'll go to some questions and answers. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes to come up with a 3-step action plan. Each and every webinar, and you might have lots of actions, but I want you to look through your notes right now, again, while I get another drink, and I want you to circle 3 things that you're going to do, 3 actions that you need to take, and I want you to share them in the Q&A box. What 3 actions are you going to take? Okay, and then once you've got those, I want you to highlight the most important one. I want you to tell me what the most important, or highlight what the most important action is that you're actually going to take. Again, I'm trusting you're going to do this. So look back at your notes. What are the actions that you can take? Is it about asking the team? Is it a process that you know that needs improving already? What is it that you need? I'm just clearing all the questions here. What is it that you need to work on? What 3 actions? And then what is the most important action? Again, if you're watching the recording, stop the recording, make sure you get your actions written down. Okay, and type them into the Q&A box when you've done that as I continue to talk. So we've gone through this in a pretty whirlwind way. We've got 2 minutes left before we hit the top of the hour. I'm happy to stay on for another 10 minutes and answer any questions and get you to share anything that you've done in the past. Paul here has put an action: discuss areas improvement with my team and get the client feedback. Most important action. Yeah, great. 3 actions: and restructure department meetings, talking to team to get ideas for improvement. Yeah, the best ideas I've ever had in any of my businesses, whether it was the construction company, the garden centre, the aviation business, best ideas came from the team. Okay, review and improve KPIs within the business, give staff checklists for routine tasks. Yep, great. Ask team 2 ways of working. Share the Omen process. Yeah, I will make sure a copy of the slides are available as well, so you can go through that Omen process there: objective, measurement, evaluation, nurture. Great. That's come to the end of the content of the webinar. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any, and while we deal with any questions or have any discussions, I've put the information up there for the productivity program as well. The email address and the telephone number is there as well. Okay, so any questions? Please put any questions. Tanvir, you've got your 3 actions there. Great. We'll talk about those in our next coaching session. That's great. Most important, ask the team. David, yeah, glad to see that. Paul, explore Lean Sigma. Yeah, there are lots of really great consultants out there, and if you're aware, there are grants available that will help you employ a consultant. That's not my thing, by the way, so I'm not trying to sell anything, but you might get a grant from a productivity, and I know the local enterprise partnerships have grants for help with HR, consultants for things like Sigma and improvement. You can even get your accountant fees paid for if you've suffered through COVID and you're looking for some support to help you with those outsourced services. So there's some great possibilities there. Yeah, Peter's put there, ask contractors. Yeah, it's not always the actual directly employed team you need to speak to. You can speak to an outsourced team as well. So any questions, anything we've talked about on efficiencies and mastering the level of order and looking at that first step of eliminating wasted effort from your business. And hopefully you've seen that this has really got you thinking. If you came here expecting a paint by numbers way of doing things, that's not my style. I've given you the Omen there, but it's about giving you some things for joining the thought process and getting things done as well. Clinch has put here, yeah, I'm sorry you've only just managed to get connection and join us, but the recording will be available, so you will be able to get that. Okay, any questions? This is where I get that tumbleweed moment of nobody asking any questions. I know we've got a few people that are having to jump off. I'm interested, there was somebody right at the beginning who said way too much complexity. I'd love to hear more about that if you're still with us, if you're able to take yourself off of mute. Anybody who said they got way too much complexity, I'd love, Hazel, I think it was, if you'd like to take yourself off of mute and just tell us a little bit more about that, that would be great.
I work for a member organisation and it seems that you have to jump through too many hoops to make any improvements, because at every level you need to gain acceptance and focus them on what the actual improvement would provide to them.
Okay. Is there an example that you're able to share that we might be able to help you with or give you a different insight to?
So we have membership numbers, basically.
Yeah.
And what I would love to do is to provide a card linked to something like a purchase card or a credit card, so that it would automatically add their member number, so we knew what they had purchased, in order to monitor what's going through the account.
Okay.
But because the membership have so many people that they authorise to make purchases on their behalf, without even asking the membership, the board believe it would be a far too complex process to go through, even though it would provide greater efficiency, because many times we get invoices and we have no idea who they're for.
Yeah. And I think, you've got an obstacle there at the board, obviously. And that's always the case, isn't it? Because, the best way to deal with boards and committees is to actually get that information beforehand. So what I always used to do with committees and boards is go out, ask the questions, do the research, and then bring the research with the idea. So I'd almost preempted their resistance to saying, oh, well, yeah, we think it'll be too complex for them to do. Well, actually, I've done the research, and 8 out of 10 cats prefer it, kind of thing. So I would always, first thing I would do is go out and ask people. The other thing to think of is sometimes complexity is a necessity. And I know that's a contradiction to what I was talking about before, but the simplicity is in the outcome. There's a great book, and I can't for the life of me think what it was called, but it was the story of Steve Jobs and Apple, and how he had this obsession with simplicity. And it wasn't the simplicity of how to create the product, it was the simplicity in the use of the product. So sometimes we have to choose our battles, and the overall outcome that Steve Jobs wanted was the simplicity for the user, but the complexity that had to go behind it to create it was enormous. But their success was based upon the simplicity for the user. So what you're talking there, Hazel, about, sometimes it's you have to accept that there is going to be a huge amount of complexity for the gain of simplicity by a certain team or party or user. And I think that's something that we all need to think about. And that quote from Einstein there about, things can be simpler but not simple. Because once you create the complexity to get that simple product, as Steve Jobs did, then you can look at the process, and then you can strip it down and start saying, how can we do that better? I think it's Kevin Sutherland's book, Scrum, talks about that, in that if you've got a process, you can then accelerate it. Quick. So sometimes poor outcome, but then go back and look at what you can do better and what you can do quicker. But you need that commitment from the board to take that step of faith. But if it gave a simple product, a simple outcome, then that would be a win-win for me. Does that sort of help a little bit?
And no, that's good. I am doing some background research at the moment to give them an offer which they just couldn't turn down.
An irresistible offer, yes. Yeah, I've been doing some courses on irresistible offers in the last couple of weeks. If you need help with irresistible offers, and there's what's the book? I'll give you a book. Flip the Script is a good one. Pitch Anything. Any books by Owen Clough are very good. But there's another book, I can't for the life of me think of it. I'll see if I can send it to you, which basically is about don't compromise. And it's a great book for circumstance like that. But Owen Clough, if you ever listen to or read any of his books, Pitch Anything or Flip the Script are good ways of getting people to think it was their idea, which is really good when it comes to boards and committees.
Thank you.
Never Split the Difference. That's what the other book is called. I can't remember the guy who wrote it, but Never Split the Difference.
Thank you.
Is the other book. Yeah. Okay. A few people have to jump off. Thank you.